Disrespect is never random. It's deliberate. It's a quiet test designed to see if you'll fold. Every time someone disrespects you, they're measuring you. They're asking one question: how much can I get away with before he breaks? And most men break fast. They react, they argue, they let emotion dictate the next move. And in that instant, they lose control of the entire game. Because here's the truth: disrespect only lives when it's fed. Every word you throw back, every emotional outburst, every attempt to set the record straight only proves one thing: that you were affected. And when people see they can affect you, they know they can control you. Machiavelli identified this truth long ago. He wrote about power not as something you demand, but something you engineer. And respect, that's not something you earn with kindness. It's something you build with boundaries. To Machiavelli, disrespect wasn't just a personal offense. It was a strategic moment, a signal, a flash of truth that exposes who sees you as an equal and who sees you as prey. That's why the Machiavellian man doesn't react. He observes. He doesn't meet chaos with emotion. He meets it with architecture, designing outcomes that favor him silently. Because the moment you react, you step inside their frame. You start playing their game. But when you stay still, when you let the disrespect echo unanswered, something strange happens. The power dynamic flips. Your silence becomes heavier than their words. They start to overthink. They wonder if you didn't hear them, or if you're planning something worse. And that uncertainty is power. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men must either be caressed or annihilated." What he meant was simple. When you deal with disrespect, there's no middle ground. You either forgive completely, without emotion or resentment, or you erase the problem entirely, but you never half react. You never show that they got to you. Because in the art of power, emotion is blood in the water. When someone disrespects you, you don't fight. You study. You look at their motive. You ask yourself, why now? What do they gain from this? What are they trying to prove? Because most disrespect comes from weakness disguised as strength. It's not about you. It's about them trying to test their relevance against your calm. That's why silence is not weakness. It's the purest form of dominance. It says, you're not even worth the energy to destroy. And that burns deeper than any insult. People expect you to react. They need that validation to feel powerful. When you deny them that reaction, you deny them identity. They start to spiral, questioning what you're thinking, what you'll do if they've gone too far. You've turned the situation from offense into uncertainty, and uncertainty always wins, because fear of the unknown is stronger than fear of confrontation. Machiavelli would call this psychological warfare, the art of control through stillness. You don't have to attack to dominate. You just have to make your presence so calm, so unshaken, that it feels like judgment itself. When you respond emotionally, you expose your weaknesses, you show your triggers, you reveal your values, and once people know what provokes you, they own you. But when you stay composed, unreadable, they're left blind. That's how you win without lifting a finger. Stillness is not passivity, it's stored chaos. It's a sword sheathed, not because you can't strike, but because you choose not to yet. That patience terrifies people. It reminds them that your silence isn't surrender, it's control. Think of the most dangerous men in history, the ones who ruled without shouting. They didn't waste words. They used silence like a blade, because silence creates space, and in that space people project their fears. The Machiavellian man knows this. The less you explain, the more others imagine. And what they imagine is always darker than what you could ever say. That's why when you're disrespected, you don't rush to prove yourself. You disappear into your calmness. You let your silence do the bleeding. Your presence becomes the punishment. Your composure becomes the threat. But make no mistake, silence alone isn't enough. It must be backed by potential. Your calm must feel dangerous, not passive, because passive men are ignored, but calm, capable men are feared. Machiavelli warned that a prince must never be loved more than he is feared, because fear keeps people alert, respectful, cautious. Love fades, but fear remembers. So when disrespect comes, your job is not to react, it's to make them remember, not through words, not through anger, but through absence, through your cold refusal to engage, through the quiet strength that says, you've lost access. Disrespect feeds on proximity. It only works if they can reach you. That's why one of the darkest ways to handle it is also the simplest. Remove yourself. withdraw your attention, cut access to your presence, because people only value what they fear losing. You don't announce it. You don't make a scene. You just stop showing up. You vanish from their world like a shadow that suddenly learned how to walk away. And soon, they'll feel it. The weight of your silence pressing against their ego. They'll replay the moment over and over, wondering where it all went wrong. That's when you win. Not when they apologize, but when they finally realize they disrespected someone who doesn't need their validation. That's the Machiavellian path, to turn every insult into information, every disrespect into distance, every silence into strength. You're not reacting, you're reprogramming how the world treats you, because once people learn that disrespect earns them nothing, not even your attention, they'll stop trying. Machiavelli would tell you, the wise man doesn't fight disrespect, he makes it irrelevant. He transforms it from an offense into a non-event. And that's what breaks people, when they realize their attempts to hurt you couldn't even make a dent in your peace. The silence was your first strike. But silence alone is never the end. It's only the beginning of control. Because once you stop reacting, once you take away their power to provoke, the game changes. Now the offender stands exposed, naked, confused, and waiting for a reaction that never comes. And that's when you decide how the story ends. Machiavelli believed every insult, every act of defiance carries within it a choice. Do you neutralize or do you annihilate? Mercy or message. The wise man doesn't choose emotionally, he chooses strategically, because sometimes the most Machiavellian move isn't to destroy your enemy, it's to let them destroy themselves under the weight of your indifference. That's the beauty of control. You never fight battles that don't benefit you. You conserve your energy for when the strike will echo. Most people react because they want closure. They want to feel right. But power doesn't care about closure. Power cares about position. And the man who can stay silent long enough to reposition himself, emotionally, socially, and psychologically, becomes untouchable. The Machiavellian response to disrespect isn't revenge, it's reformation. You reform your image, your habits, your circle, your energy, until the person who disrespected you can't even recognize who you've become. Because true vengeance isn't proving them wrong, it's proving that their disrespect was a turning point, not a wound. You don't chase their apology, you become their regret. Let's be clear, forgiveness doesn't mean weakness. Machiavelli knew that mercy, when used properly, can be a form of dominance. When you forgive without emotion, you show that the insult didn't even pierce your skin. When you move on without retaliation, you remind them that their opinion is irrelevant to your evolution. And that realization, that they never had power over you, cuts deeper than any revenge. But sometimes silence isn't enough. Sometimes an example must be made. Machiavelli wrote that injuries should be inflicted in such a way that one does not fear revenge. Meaning, if you're going to retaliate, make it decisive, surgical, final, not out of anger, out of order. You don't argue, you remove. You don't curse them, you erase them. You eliminate their access to your time, your name, your presence. You make them irrelevant, not hated, forgotten, not remembered. That's how you make disrespect expensive. Because the truth is, disrespect only survives when you make it cheap. When you allow people to play with your emotions freely, you devalue yourself. But when you make your presence costly, your silence sacred, your access limited, you turn respect into a form of currency. And only the disciplined can afford it. That's why most people never gain real respect. They're too accessible, too reactive, too predictable. They don't understand that mystery is the foundation of fear, and fear in Machiavelli's world is the foundation of respect. When people can't read you, they can't control you. When they can't predict you, they can't provoke you. That's what makes you powerful. Not your words, but your opacity. Opacity is your armor. Never explain your emotions. Never announce your plans. Never give them a clear target. Because once people understand your pattern, they can play you like a piano. Machiavelli warned rulers against transparency for this exact reason. He said a wise man must learn to disguise his intentions, to appear open while thinking in shadows. Because deception isn't always lying, sometimes it's just withholding truth from the unworthy. And that's how you handle disrespect when silence no longer suffices. Through controlled unpredictability, you make them question whether they overstepped. You make them wonder if their words reach too far. You don't explain. You let paranoia do the punishment. Because the mind is a better battlefield than the tongue. Here's the dark psychology behind it. When someone disrespects you and you stay silent, They feel tension, but when that silence is paired with unpredictability, with sudden detachment, new success, or complete disappearance, their imagination turns against them. They start to see you everywhere, in the success they can't reach, in the peace they can't feel, in the silence that reminds them they no longer matter. You've now become the ghost in their head, and ghosts are harder to fight than men. That's what Machiavellian revenge truly looks like. It's not blood, it's absence. It's the silent domination of your enemy's thoughts while you move higher, colder, and calmer than ever before. And in that silence, something powerful happens. You evolve. You become a man who no longer seeks external validation, because once you've mastered your reaction, you've mastered yourself. Machiavelli would say that control over others begins with control over oneself. If you cannot command your emotions, your silence, your impulses, you will never command respect. The man who reacts to every insult will always serve those who provoke him. That's why the real goal is not to punish disrespect, it's to transcend it, to reach a level where nothing external can shake your internal balance, because the man who cannot be shaken cannot be manipulated. Disrespect loses its power when your ego dies. When you stop caring about being liked, understood, or validated, you become unstoppable. You start to view every slight as background noise, every insult as proof that you've outgrown the small minds around you. That's where Machiavellian philosophy meets ancient Stoicism. Both taught that emotion is the enemy of reason, and the man who controls neither is controlled by everyone. So instead of reacting, you rise. Instead of seeking revenge, you refine. You use disrespect as fuel to become sharper, quieter, more precise, because that's the paradox. The most dangerous men aren't the loudest, they're the calmest. They smile while building empires. They forgive while sharpening the blade. They don't seek revenge in the moment. They let time bring their enemies to their knees. Every insult, every betrayal, every moment of disrespect becomes an investment in your discipline. You don't waste energy fighting small people. You redirect that energy into creating a reality so powerful it makes them irrelevant. That's the darkest way to handle disrespect, by turning it into momentum. You rise so high that no insult can reach you. Your success becomes the revenge, your calm becomes the warning, and your silence becomes the story they tell about you long after you're gone. Because no one forgets the man who could have destroyed them, but chose not to. And here's the final truth. The most Machiavellian way to handle disrespect isn't by destroying others. It's by becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to. A man who is respected not because he demands it, but because he radiates it. A man who doesn't flinch, doesn't explain, doesn't bend. The man whose peace feels like judgment. The man whose silence feels like consequence. The man whose control feels like destiny. You can't fake that kind of presence. It's built in solitude, forged in discipline, and strengthened by every insult you refuse to respond to. So the next time you're disrespected, smile, because they just handed you a mirror showing exactly who they are and exactly how much stronger you've become. Don't lower yourself to correct them. Don't fight for their recognition. Just keep building your empire in silence, because while they're busy talking, you'll be busy becoming untouchable. And one day, when they finally look up from their small world of noise and gossip, they'll realize the cruel truth. You were never fighting them. You were evolving beyond them. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.